I think now's a good time for us to get started. It's about 4 minutes after the top of the hour. Good morning, everyone, for those that just recently joined. My name is Jim Dawkins, and I'm with Alicosoft, the makers of Asta Powerproject. I'm certainly excited about our presentation this morning, a little preview presentation, a look ahead of what's to come in the very, very near future. And now, no, it's not all just PowerPoints. We have actual software that's just about to hit the street. So we're certainly excited about that. Again, my apologies for those that just joined with a little bit of a mix-up with the timing in the reminders. Some reminders were right, some reminders not so right. So my apologies. We did our best to try to get those correct. I know the last reminder that went out this morning was correct. So if you have some colleagues that perhaps couldn't make it because of a perceived kind of last minute change in time, don't worry. While those that don't attend can't clearly ask questions, they can certainly view a recording of this webinar. We will be recording this, so you can take a look afterwards. For those that have attended, you get a couple of extra benefits. One is access to a trial copy of the software, and you'll get a reminder link a little bit later today that takes you to that trial copy. And as soon as we can get the recording posted up on the GoToMeeting website, we'll have the recording available to you as well. So if you miss some piece, certainly love you to stay tuned. There's a couple of very interesting timing things that I'll mention as we get through the presentation a little bit later. But for now, let's move through some interesting information that positions the application and the company for you. Again, my name is Jim Dawkins. I'm the U.S. Channel Manager. Asta Powerproject is sold through authorized partners across North America. We have 10 partners all across North America, so there's likely one very close to you. Our partners are carefully selected with great expertise in the scheduling world. And we also have with you this morning Megan DePody. Megan is our consultant here in the U.S. The software, and I put U.S. in the front of those, and last time somebody said, why are you putting U.S. in front of everything? Software is actually created in the U.K., so I want to make sure we make a quick distinction. We're the folks that are feet on the ground here in the U.S., and Megan has 10 years experience as a scheduler with a general contractor and a subcontractor. So she has a kind of unique perspective and has been using scheduling software for quite a number of years. So, and Megan will be doing the heavy lifting with the presentation this morning. So one of the first questions I get for folks that are looking at Asta Powerproject, if they haven't heard of it before, is who uses Asta Powerproject? So there's quite a few more folks than many people first come to mind. Many people don't recognize how many large contractors are using Asta Powerproject. We think of some other tools that you've heard about for years, and they don't think about Asta Powerproject. But there's wide acceptance across the U.S. And in the last 6 months, we added more customers than we've added in the last couple of years. So pretty exciting growth. We're very excited that people are seeing the advantages that we're talking about. So the next question is always, that's great, Jim, but why are they moving to Asta Powerproject? Well, we'll take a look at some of the functionality, but clearly there's a few key drivers. Saunders is a general contractor here in the Denver area. Megan and I hail both from the sunny Denver area. That's where we are this morning. And Saunders is a very well-respected contractor here in Denver. And for them, they focused on ease of use and how that affected their business. There are applications out there that don't use simple drag and drop. You think everybody would use simple drag and drop or cut and paste functionality. And that's a very quick way to get your tool created, rather to get your schedule created in the tool. That creates some efficiencies, and many people are wondering why some of the applications out there today are just a bit harder. So the other thing of note is that subcontractors are making use of the software as well. A lot of people don't recognize that, and or think perhaps it's only for GCs. Well, Encore Electric is another contractor that folks make use of, or make use of the software. And if I can actually hit my next button, why does Encore Electric move to it? Well, Encore Electric had some very specific comparisons that they looked at. And they again were focusing on ease of use. And for a subcontractor, those margins, just as for a GC, but because of the heavy resources required, they needed a robust scheduling tool that, while easy to use, yet still allowed them to resource and cost load. And reducing the number of folks that they needed on a job with efficient scheduling greatly affects the margin for a subcontractor. That was really a driver for Encore Electric. Just a quick note to let you know, for those of you that are maybe concerned about a scheduling tool that won't work within certain specifications or mandates, Asta Powerproject absolutely lives within that scheduling ecosystem. If folks are specifying to you that you must submit a Primavera or XER file format, that's a file save as. A very important point here is I'm not talking about an export routine that you have to run. This is a file save as. A couple of clicks, boom, it's out there. No different than saving as a PDF out of Excel. We also open P3, P6, SureTrack files, Microsoft Project as well. And you can see we've got MPX, we've got XML files in this save as capabilities as well. So you can use the tool that you decide is best for your business, yet provide and work within that ecosystem. Provide formats that are appropriate for owners or the GC if you're a sub. So real quickly, and I'll move through this quickly, who are the folks behind Asta Powerproject? As I said, while the tool is created in the UK, this tool has been around for a long time, much longer than most folks realize. Most of the top contractors in the UK use it. We have over 1,100 users in the US. That often causes people pause. We have over 75,000 users worldwide. This software is translated into languages across the globe and used across the globe. Probably one of the most critical components to our users today is that you're not talking about some massive company that has a bunch of different stakeholders and is sold in a lot of different verticals. That's great. That's a great business model. The challenge is it makes it really hard to provide for the needs of a specific vertical. And Asta Powerproject is created for contractors. It's created for construction. So that allows us to listen to the needs of our contractors and to make changes as appropriate. So as I mentioned, we've got 10 partners across the US and Canada. They can provide training, support, consulting support as you're new to it. Okay, so let's quickly move to the topic of the day, and that is, let's get a look at version 14. This is by far our most significant release yet. We're very excited about it. The release is really much more than a set of new features. If you've ever looked at a new release for software, release notes, and seen line after line after line of a different selection and a drop down, those are often important to a specific few folks, but not quite as broad as perhaps you would like. Version 14 is certainly a much broader offering and allows you to put or gather functionality back into one application. That's really, really, really critical. And so as you're looking at the application today, you might have a view for exactly how many fewer packages you might need. So, great, Jim. Broader functionality. What are we talking about? Exactly what is included in the software. So we have included some risk analysis functionality. And the way I'd position everything that we've added here is this is our first step into many of these components. We've actually had a risk tool for a number of years that we sold separately. We're going to put it into the application, and we're not going to charge anything more today. That risk analysis tool is there for you to use, and we'll take a look at how that works. There's also a business intelligence reporter export routine that's created for those of you that maybe use data warehouses or use an enterprise system. What we've done is create one that doesn't require all that overhead. So I'll show you how that happens. Keep in mind, and Megan will certainly remind you of this, that we have built into the tool many standard reports. We have some terrific tools that allow you to format what comes out of the system. We have the ability to print what's on the screen. Kind of what you see is what you get in the printout, which is very unique. And this business intelligence is over and above all that standard functionality. Also have included an earned value reporter for those who want to get an idea. Are we on schedule, on cost? Where do those lines cross? Do some budgeted cost performed, scheduled, and do those comparisons, create the index routines. But I don't want to steal Megan's thunder. We'll take a look at that as well. For those of you that enjoy taking a look at instead of a Gantt chart format, you want to look at network diagram format. We have a network diagram viewer and great deal of ways to format that network view. A lot of folks prefer that in terms of communication tool set. And then last, we also have a project comparison tool. So there are, for most applications, every one of these is something external, extra, something you have to add. Project comparison tool, and we'll certainly take a look at it. Great way to find out exactly what has changed. And then the last thing I'll say is at the end of the webinar, I'll talk about release timing and also some aspects of that release timing that might be financially important to you. So you might want to stick around and as I take a look at that. So now I need to make some changes here. And I'm going to hand over, Megan, the if Jim can hit the button right? So here we go. Got you in a couple of times, Megan. That's why so let me know when you get control.
All right. We're going to show it right there. Is that working for you?
Got it. Wow. The hardest part of the presentation is transferring control. Great.
Yes. All right. As Jim said, I am Megan Depoti. I'm going to jump in here pretty quick and show you what we've got going on for version 14. Right off the bat, it doesn't look very different from Asta Powerproject you're hopefully used to seeing. If not, this is what Asta Powerproject looks like. The main changes are within the project tab here. These are all the additional add-on features that Jim was talking about that have been included now. So I'm going to jump right into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about here is our risk analysis. Before I show you the risk analysis tool, I want to go over a couple of things you can do with your schedule itself to help with the calculating of risk and see where your project's at and what potential issues you might have. First thing you can do, if you open up any activity, there is now a risk analysis section. You can, for specific activities, specific tasks, you can put minimum or maximum durations for to be used when the risk analysis is calculated. You can also have a probability in there of that task happening. A lot of people think, well, why would I have a probability less than 100 of a task happening? You know, all the tasks in my schedule need to happen. This is useful especially for tasks for potential delays. Looking ahead, you might know that, you know, we ordered a certain piece of equipment a little bit late. There's a chance that it might not be here on time, so you could put in a delay activity or a delivery activity and say that, you know, I'm 90% sure it's going to happen, that we're going to have this delay. So you could create that activity and put a probability on it so that when you do your risk calculations, it will 90% of the time calculate that delay is happening, but still give you a chance that, hey, we might actually get it on time if the stars align and customs, you know, things don't get held up in customs and all the other fun things we run into on projects. Another thing you can do related to risk that is unique within Asta Powerproject is we have link categories. So any of your logic links you can categorize. You can create as many different categories as you like. I have a couple here, one to highlight delays. So again, if you had created some activities to show potential delays that you're tracking, you can categorize those links as delay. They can be different colors. I'll show you in a few minutes here how they can affect your reschedule as well. You can categorize your links by risk, whether it's a resource link, you know, informational link. So this is unique, and I think a lot of people don't use it at the moment, but it is a very powerful way to create various versions of your schedule to show potential issues. So how those come into effect is that when you go to reschedule, you can ignore specific link categories. So if I want to schedule my project but ignore the potential delays I have in there and just show it as it is, you know, everything going according to plan, I can ignore all those delay links. So I can run a couple different reschedules and run my risk reports off of those reschedules, either including the delay or not including the delay. So I will jump back to the risk here and show it to you. So looking at it, you can do it based off of your entire scope, one per branch or one view. One thing that is unique within Asta Powerproject is you can have multiple projects within one Powerproject file. So you can have those schedules linked together. You can share resources between them, all within one file. But if you only want to run this risk analysis on one part of that, you can select this branch that you're currently looking at, and it will only run it on that schedule you're currently using. This file is just one schedule, so I'm going to do the entire thing. You can select your number of iterations. Obviously, the more you do, the more accurate, better information you're going to get. For ease of use here and speed, I'm going to just do a simple 10. Sampling method, there are a couple of them here. I think most people who are familiar with risk are familiar with the Monte Carlo method of sampling. It's pretty standard and widely used within the construction industry. Also included is another sampling method that not as many people are aware of called Latin hypercube. It's sampled a little bit differently, and the differences allow you to get better results with fewer iterations. So it saves you some time and complication of not having to do quite as many iterations. For your risk, if you have set minimum maximum durations or probabilities on any of your activities, you can check this box here, and it will use that as your first, the first method for running your iterations. And then if you don't have those assigned to any specific activity, you can put in default percentages for it to use. A lot of times people don't want to necessarily have to go and put on minimum max durations or probabilities for each and every activity. So you'll utilize that to maybe assign those things to activities that have either more or less flexibility than any of your others. There are typically tasks, especially, like milestones, things like that, that really don't have any flexibility. So you can go and give those your minimum and maximums and your probabilities. And we'll use that first, and then for your general tasks that could in theory float, you can just use the default percentages. You could also use a code library. If you have codes set up for high, medium, or low risk activities, you can use that as part of the calculation as well. So go ahead and apply the changes, generate. You get a box that pops up here that warns you this schedule that I'm using has some activities that have progress, that have actual information, so those will not be included in your risk analysis as they have already happened. So this is a very basic, like I said, only 10 iterations. These show the probability of the iteration happening. You have your finish dates, so as you can see we have a range of finish dates going from October 18th all the way to November 1st. You have a cost range here. You can see we have some that actually are cheaper than what we're currently planned, and then we have some that jump up and are going to cost us a little bit extra. One thing you can do, and you say, this is great, but how do I know what changes were made, what's driving these, either additional costs or savings and additional time? You can actually select one of your iterations and create a schedule based on that. It will not impact your current schedule. It will create a separate file. Then you can go through and take a look at the specifics and see what you like, what you don't like, where there's potential for savings, either cost or time. You can also copy or export things either to your clipboard to paste somewhere else or into Excel. If you export an iteration to Excel, it will list out all the activities, the original duration, the new duration, original, cost, new cost. So that's another way to be able to track what has changed. Look at graphs here a little bit. Again, there's not a lot to look at this one. I'm going to real quick jump to an example I have here that is a little more complex. I ran this morning. This one had 500 iterations and a little bit more of a complex schedule. So look at the reports here. Shows things a little more clearly. So what you're looking at here is the odds, of these finish dates happening. So this project actually has a pretty wide range of finish dates going from January all the way through March. And this line here shows the odds of it actually happening. So as you can see, the later we go, the better the chance that we actually hit that date. And do the same thing for cost. So we have it going least expensive, we have a peak, then comes back down. We have a better chance of hitting these more expensive targets. Also show margin coming down. So that is a useful tool to see and help you decide where you're willing to have some risk and what you think you can make happen. So jump back here to original project. So that right now is our risk tool. It's a pretty good way to, like I said, track where you think you could potentially make up some time or where you have potential issues. The next thing that we're going to look at here is the business intelligence. Business intelligence really is export of information to create more sophisticated reports and communication between maybe some of your other tools, your ERP tools, or other company reports and tools. as Jim said, we do have a lot of standard reports that you can already run. We have the copy and paste functionality. So if you are not familiar with BI or intimidated by it, you don't have to use it, and you can still get a lot of the same information. This just has a lot more flexibility. I'll show you here. So export to BI, you can do everything or just specific parts. Send it. We'll export it over there. Oh, wrong one there. And this is what we get. I have created some basic charts just to kind of show you some of the things you can do. Some information you might want to get from this BI export. This here is showing the activities that we have with float in various ranges. So as you can see, we've got almost half of our activities have no float at all. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room in this schedule. That's what this chart shows us. A lot of scheduling software use the 0-day marker to highlight and to calculate the critical path. So that's showing us that, yeah, right there, 45% have zero float or potentially on the critical path. I have another one that just shows us our cost by floor level, by location, cost by month. So these are typical things that executives might want to see. As you update your schedule, you can update this export, the spreadsheet, and get new, updated charts. As you can see, all of these tabs here are created with the export. So there is a lot of information. Information related to all the specific tasks, to links, resources, costs, codes. I'll jump to the task information here to give you an idea of what you get. So there are many, many, many columns of information related to tasks here. We've got, our basics, names, and dates. We've got codes, so any codes, whether it be location, subcontractor, risk level, all of those codes are brought in. Also have, dates where we were last edited, so you can see when things have changed, when you've changed activities. We've got all our various early and late start dates, our float, variances, start and finish variances, actuals, if there's actuals. You got baseline data for baselines that are assigned. We have costs. So as you can see, there is a lot of information here. This is all related to duration. So there's an endless amount of information and therefore a pretty endless amount of comparisons and reports, charts, things that you can create. What I've done here, on this dashboard is a very simplistic show of what you can do. But you can use all the tools within Excel and the charting within Excel to create charts comparing just about any kind of information in your schedule. You can also use this to get your data into, say, an ERP or more sophisticated comparison tools and data analysis tools. Whatever you are comfortable with, the data is there for you to use. Let's jump here. Next thing we're going to look at is our network viewer. Now, our network viewer is something that a lot of people like to see. It shows up here. It's a communication tool. A lot of times, I know a lot of contractors like to, print this up and have it up posted on the side of the trailer. It's easy to see. It's very visual. Zoom in here a little bit. You can see where we're at. Whoop. There are a lot of things you can update and format. Here, I am showing just the name, start, and finish in these boxes. You can include many other pieces of information on what you would like. You know, a lot of people are used to seeing like the duration or the float. Any of those you can include. You can group. So it would include your groups for your various summary levels. You could also group it by group it by subcontractor or any of your other activity codes. If you want to group it by floor, by subcontractor, by risk level, any of that. You can show what links are showing and what types of activities are highlighted. So right now my critical path is highlighted. If we zoom out a little, you can see that in red. You can show what links are shown. Typically, a lot of people like to just see the driving links. It makes it a little less messy, not quite as many lines going on. You'd see predecessors and successors. You can show your categories of links. You can only show specific categories. So if you click on any link, it will give you the properties for those. Again, you can group or ungroup. So there's a lot you can do to use this as a communication tool to send your schedule to people. A lot of times there are a lot of people who prefer this method, who understand this work than a standard Gantt chart. Next, we're going to look here at the earned value analysis reporter. Earned value analysis is something that a lot of people are kind of intimidated by. This is a very simplistic view of it to get some good information without having to have a lot of time spent learning about earned value. So you can calculate based on some various quantities. We're going to go ahead and just use duration. You can choose to report by a specific code library. So you could have it, maybe by your subcontractor and have it do the calculations based on each specific code within your contractor code. So for each contractor, we're going to just go ahead and do the full one. You can do your report to compare between any of the baselines that you have assigned to your project, which in Powerproject there's unlimited number, so you can save as many iterations as you want to be able to compare against. Again, you can, your current project, if you have multiple projects within a file, you could do your current branch, which will, or current project, which again lets you have multiple projects within a single file, but you can run the reports separately for each specific project. You don't have to do them together. Or you can do, said, all that are marked as projects. So that would do all of your projects that are within that same file. So go ahead and run the report. I've got one here. This is exactly how it comes out of Powerproject. I haven't done any formatting to this at all. So you get basic earned value curve with what you have planned and what the actual looks like it's going to be. Get down here, you have your statistics. I will get into these a little bit more in a second here. And the second tab is your settings. So this shows you your general settings. So if you want to look at, how something was rescheduled, what update, I can't remember what update I compared it to, all of that is there. This is a very important tab, especially for people who are not familiar with earned value. We have terminology, concepts, how the curves are calculated, understanding, how to read the curves. All of that is there, pretty simple, basic overview, so that even, we're not getting into the super nitty-gritty for, full earned value for maybe a federal job, but this still can help you look at your schedule in a way to see where your potential issues are and how your performance is and how you think your performance might be going forward. One thing I'll highlight here is these BCWP and ACWP is your forecasted, the work performed. And then as you can see, we have these formulas here dividing your forecasted work, your actual work, create these schedule performance index and cost performance index. If you go back to here, you can see those indexes were calculated there. The closer to 1 you are, the better your project is performing, closer to planned anyway. So as you can see, our lines are crossing here, so there we're working right on as planned, and we differentiate a little bit here. But like I said, it's not a full earned value of all the specifics that you would need for a large federal contract, but for most jobs, this is a very handy tool to see where you're at, see where you're going, and where you might need to take a look and make some possible changes. The last thing I'm going to show you here is our project comparison, which Jim said is a separate install, which is good if you don't have to load your schedules to make it happen, to be able to do the comparisons. So where this comes in handy is, I find that if you get an update from somebody, whether if you're a general contractor and you get an update from various subcontractors or from the field, and you want to look and see what they changed prior to you incorporating into your schedule. You don't want to just bring it in and then have to go find what changed or make sure they didn't do something weird with some of the logic or make some impossible short durations, things like that. You can run this comparison, and as Jim said, Powerproject can open various file types from various scheduling software. So if, say, your subcontractor sends you a SureTrack file or a P6 file, you can open that, save it as a Powerproject file, and then you can compare against that. So create a new one here. You can name it, create what file you're going to generate it to. Call a test. You can do a text file, HTML, XML, so it depends on what you want to do with this. For our options here, you can use hours or days to show things like your durations. You can match how you want to match them. If they have task IDs that are same, this unique task ID, which is equivalent to the activity ID in other scheduling software, a little different nomenclature there. Asta Powerproject also has a task ID, which is slightly separate, so you can decide one of these might be unique or others you might be able to repeat depending on how you want to structure your schedule. You can also do it by the Asta Powerproject internal ID, which is always unique and not something you can change. You can choose to group things. So here we're going to select our projects that we want to compare. Select a revised project. You can choose the scope again. So if you have if I had multiple projects here, they would show, and I could select to run this for one of the projects within the file or for all of them, or just for, even if you don't have multiple projects, just for if I want to compare just the earthwork section or just the mechanical section, I can do that so I don't have to run the report on the entire schedule. I can also select what components it compares. If I want to just look at links, I can just select the link related ones, duration, etc. We're going to look at all of them. So I've got one created here. It's an HTML. You can select anywhere on the table of contents and it will jump to that section. So, we only had one activity where it change the duration. We had been exported in hours. You can do days. So this one actually got shorter by 3 days. 24 hours. We had one activity where our float changed. Here's tasks that had a start or finish date change, so tasks that moved. You can look as well at link changes, so you can see where they changed links, take a look and see if any of those logically don't make sense. And then basic summaries that show you, duration, number of tasks, unlinked task constraints, things like that. So it's not a very in-depth comparison, but it does highlight any and everything that, as far as tasks, duration, links, critical path, float, all of those things, whether they changed or not and where those changes occurred. So you can look, make sure all of those changes make sense, make sure there's nothing that is, logically doesn't work, make sure that, important tasks haven't been deleted, things like that, before you then incorporate that update into your schedule. So that is what I have. I don't know, Jim,
Yeah.
give it back to you and you can.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to leave you as presenter here real quick as we walk through a couple of questions that popped in. So, and one of them, as we move into some of these tools, we certainly run into a bit of a quandary in that it's not a kind of a tutorial on, say, Monte Carlo risk analysis or Latin hypercube or why the heck did you include that, or all the way out to EVA. Why would I include EVA? Yeah, it's a DoD mandated process. Is that what this meant to satisfy? So I got a number of questions in a number of different areas. So let me see if I can help clarify what our strategy is here and what we're hoping to do with some of the folks or some of the functionality for our users. So, and the challenge is that over and over again, we've heard that folks want to, the whole point of a risk analysis is how likely, what's the distribution, what's the probability of finishing on time? And those probabilities, and running those simulations allows you to answer that question. Worst case, best case, apply some judgment. And in fact, there was a question about, and I think you touched on this, Megan, but if you move into the risk analysis, one of the questions was about, so I've got these distribution charts, a little confusing, but one of the things you can do is you can take the output and create a schedule. So you could run your simulations, one of the simulations gives you kind of a worst case scenario, and then along the left-hand side, if you look, there's a little box that's grayed out because I didn't make her hit because we're going through the whole generation thing again. But you can create another schedule based on, all right, if the probabilities lie in this simulation this way, what does that look like in terms of a schedule? Yes, we give you the start and finish date, but a little more detailed than that. One of the bits of information when you copy out all the data for the risk analysis also will tell you, well, which tasks are causing the most likely delay? What's driving this simulation? Where is it weighted essentially? So those are some things that you can easily display and explain. So if your GC is saying, so why do you think it's going to run late based on what? Well, here I can show you that. So risk analysis is meant to get ahead of, and in fact, we'll talk about another webinar we have coming up very soon. But risk analysis is meant to help you get ahead of that. And from a strategy standpoint, to circle back where I started, this is certainly not a separate risk analysis tool, but does provide you the ability to run as many Monte Carlo simulations with basic probabilities, which is the basis of all risk analysis, on your schedule, and provide some answers around the likelihoods to your stakeholders without having to go out and buy another tool. So you can use it as a part of the core functionality. That leads us to business intelligence. Had a couple of questions. Oh, let me circle back to risk. There was a question about risk durations, and we do have some additional fields on duration. Sometimes that can be a little confusing because there is a duration clearly in the schedule, but we've got minimum and maximums, and what we're defining here are the boundaries within which the probabilities or the risk analysis will run. You'll notice that Megan is on the risk analysis tab on the left-hand side, and that's why we have a minimum and maximum duration. They're not a part of the normal schedule. They're a part of a risk analysis simulation. So there was a question about that. So now move to business intelligence, and with business intelligence, what I think we're providing here in terms of strategy is not a complicated, high overhead, enterprise-wide business intelligence. Have you seen business intelligence and analytical tools? Yeah, there's a great deal of them. But you're a scheduler, or you're a project manager, or you're a director of ops at a contractor, and you'd like to look across and see where the schedules are without having to open up each one of the schedules. So, and one of the questions centered around business intelligence, and I know Megan mentioned it, is that you can rerun this routine, export the data as many times as you want, and it will update the graphics that you've created. You need not create them every time. I don't want to give anybody the impression that I've got to hit the button and I've got to go in and do a pivot chart and I've got to do some graphs. You don't. So you could create a tab, 2 or 3 tabs, with the graphics for the dashboards, as Megan has done here as an example, and hit the export. It updates with all the current data. You could optionally, you could save every iteration. If you want to save as of a certain date, you can save those as well and have them point to different graphics if you want. You want to flip through them. But this is almost every organization has these pragmatic, what is the way I would refer to business intelligence tool sets. They didn't go out and buy a big business intelligence tool set and get an IT person to figure out how to write that. And by the way, with our enterprise solution, we offer a full data warehouse business intelligence tool set. You can use SQL reporting services and write the reports. Does it take some expertise to make all those things happen? Sure. For a larger organization, that's perfect. Makes perfect sense. This is a great way to create it quickly with tools that everyone's familiar with. No SQL reporting services. Everybody knows how to use Excel. And no, you don't have to know how to use a pivot chart, but it can be quite helpful. So that positions kind of where business intelligence is, and it's included as a part of the software. So certainly that's also the case for the network viewer, really a communication tool. That's how we position that tool set. Lots of formatting options because it is a communication tool. There was a question about just showing the pieces you want to show, and a lot of that was the point of the grouping functionality that Megan highlighted in the network tool. So you can just show the component of the schedule for the network that's helpful. We still have lots of folks who look at a Gantt chart, look at the spreadsheet side of the schedule and get significantly confused. And that's the good schedules are good communication tools. Certainly, when we get to the earned value analysis, and Megan, I don't know if you could go back to the chart in your earned value analysis.
Yeah.
As I said before, there's lots of great, very DoD compliant earned value tool sets, but there's a lot of private sector firms that are using EVA, and why and how are they using it? Well, just the chart alone, and certainly Megan highlighted some of the metrics, but the chart alone, and unfortunately this one doesn't have that big a delta in it because we're pretty close to on track. But if you look at the chart, you'll see that there's a time scale on the bottom and a cost scale along the y-axis, along the vertical scale. So the amount of deviation you see from actuals to planned, and on a vertical axis is how much ahead or behind you are with cost. For those of you that know and value, you're bored right now, sorry. And how much you're ahead or behind schedule is the horizontal delta from the plan versus actual. That's a really simple way to show are we are behind or ahead of schedule that doesn't involve a complex CPM tool set. Comparing baselines to actuals, comparing percent progress. There's a lot of really sophisticated ways, and those are much more helpful for if you understand them. But if you don't understand them, again, earned value is a great communication tool, like the network diagram, like business intelligence, and like risk. All of those are great communication tools that are included as a part of the functionality. The last piece, project comparison, not really kind of a claim-focused project comparison, really more focused on, I got an update. Do I really have to go through the whole schedule to find out what's changed? No, I don't. I can set some criteria on my project comparison tool, quickly move to that section of the report and understand what's been changed. I can scan the various sections and see what they did. And you don't have to pull it into the tool set. Clearly you can. We play well with others, so that means you get those in different formats. We can accommodate those. We can make available depending on whether it's coming in project or XER, whatever that might be. So we're 5 minutes left, and I've got a couple of more things to share with you. So if you submitted a question and I didn't get to it, my apologies. I will ensure that we do that via email. Okay. And I've got a couple here I'm looking at, and I'm sorry, I'm going to move on. So what I did want to, it would be helpful for me to actually take back control. So in addition to some important release information, I do want to talk about some upcoming events that you can get a look at Asta Powerproject. We're currently in release 13, version 13. It's an 04 release, but for your purposes, version 13 is our current release. So what we provided today was a preview into a future release, version 14. When's that coming out? Well, the release target for version 14 is not that far off. We're probably a matter of weeks away. So mid to late June. We're certainly moving through some last-minute testing with our users, so gearing up all our partners so that they're available to answer your questions. And this was meant to be a nice first look at it. I mentioned before, however, that there might be some financial implications around the release. And so the first one is around July, July 1, we're looking at lifting the price a bit. We're including all of this functionality into our standard application. So we'll lift the price a little in July, but not until July. So you can wait until July. The release will be on or about that time, as I said, mid to late June. But if you've been considering Asta Powerproject for all the other functionality we've covered in all the other webinars, the ease of use, the cut and paste, the ability to work with XER files or Microsoft project files, yet drag and drop your schedules right there. If you're considering it, or perhaps you're our current customer and looking to maybe add a few additional users, now would be the time to do that prior to that release. You buy today, and all that functionality comes with the software as a part of maintenance. It's just included and will be sent out to you. So that's one of the things we're trying to do is to provide you as much information as soon as we know it. We're very transparent at Asta Powerproject. Got a couple of ways to take a look at it. Got an E&R webcast. We've highlighted It's really kind of an exciting, fun, entertaining webinar coming up June 22nd that we're doing in cooperation with ENR. And one of the things we'll be looking at is across our partners, across the U.S. and the globe, we'll be taking some examples of some projects that had perhaps some unexpected challenges, some unexpected delays, how that affected the schedule, what they did about it, and then also maybe provide you with some tools to build in anticipation of some unexpected events. So there's some really exciting tools within Asta Powerproject that we can do that. So we'll talk about that. In June, we're going to focus, at the end of June, we've got another Alicosoft Asta Powerproject webinar. We do these monthly. We're targeting the last Thursday of every month. For those of you that had the challenge with the scheduling, they're targeted for 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Try to get it all in before lunchtime for everybody. Sorry, a little early for the West Coasters. But in June, we're hoping to look at some ease of use functionality that's really back to our roots of how we can quickly perform certain functions. So more to come on that. Look for that invitation. If you have suggestions for future webinars, please send those in as well. You'll also get a look in between these two. You'll also get a look at the software with a trial download. The trial downloads are production software, so unfortunately you're not going to see version 14 until it's in general release. We don't release until we release. We will be up, Megan and I and partners will be up in Toronto here in June for AACE. Then we make a little skip with the busy construction summer to October. We'll be out in San Diego for CMAA, and there's another BIM forum. We have a BIM plugin that we showed in webinars. You should look for it on our website. We'll be showing that again in Atlanta. So with that, we'll close out our functionality. You will get, or our webinar, you will get a copy of the recording, a link to the recording. We'll get that up to you a little bit later today. It takes a little bit of time to upload the recording and change the format. So I'll make that available a little bit later today. For all those who attended this morning, we'll provide you with a link to the trial software. It's a 14-day free trial, fully functional, version 13. You can take a look at all the ease of use functions that were embedded in Asta Powerproject. You can go to our website at astapowerproject.com. You can find the Alicosoft partner near you, list of all our highly qualified partners. I strongly encourage you to do that. You can also shoot me an email, or we have a toll-free number. That toll-free number will also connect you with the partners as well. But you can get Megan and I, and we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. We're really excited about version 14, and we're really excited about you joining us this morning. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining, and look for that link a little bit later today. Megan, thanks for your time, and thanks for everybody joining us today.